All right, today we're gonna make a recipe that I designed specifically for my kids, but it's something that I love just the same as they do. And it's a super soft seeded sourdough sandwich bread. It's a recipe that I have kind of structured around bringing extra nutrition to my kids' diet. And it's a bread that I think, even though it's on the healthy side, it has so much flavor and such a wonderful texture. And it's a healthy bread that doesn't seem too healthy. There's a seed soaker that goes into this bread, but it's not too much. So it's just enough to make the bread really healthy and delicious with a nice texture, but not so much that your kids are gonna, say, ooh, it's too healthy or too seedy. And then I pair that soaker up with using the Tangzhong technique of pre-cooking some of the flour. Very similar to how I did my super soft sourdough rolls. That brings so much softness and tenderness to this bread, just like it does those rolls. I make the levain the night before I want to bake this loaf, and there's no cold fermentation for the dough. So really this bread is all done all in one day. And the reason for that is I want to keep the sourness to a minimum. It's really a mild flavored bread. The convenient thing about having that overnight levain is that we have to make the soaker for this bread with all the seeds. The night before, when my starter is ripe, I'll mix together my levain ingredients, and then I'll also make my soaker. And the next day in the morning, the first thing you want to do is make your Tangzhong. So we'll pre-cook some of the whole wheat flour with a large portion, or actually all of the milk in the recipe. And that will be done about an hour ahead of time. That way you let that mixture kind of cool on the counter. After making the Tangzhong and letting it cool a bit, use the mixer to mix the bread dough, and then we'll let the dough ferment for 3 hours during bulk fermentation. After that time, we'll divide the dough, and then we'll let that rest for about 30 to 35 minutes. Then we'll shape the dough and let it proof on the counter for about 2 hours. Really, there's 3 components to this bread. You've got your main dough, the things you're gonna actually mix, in your mixer. Then you have your levain that ripens overnight, and then you have your seed and oat soaker that kind of softens and rests overnight alongside the levain. The first thing you want to do is the night before you want to mix this dough, you're going to make your levain and make your seed soaker. So put all of the levain ingredients in the jar, use your ripe sourdough starter, mix everything together, cover it, and let it sit to ferment. And the same for the seed soaker, just add all of the seeds and the rolled oats, cover with the called for water, and let that set next to the levain overnight, covered. The next step is in the morning, we're going to make the Tangzhong mixture. So add the whole wheat flour and the whole milk to a saucepan over medium heat. Whisk the ingredients together and continue to whisk periodically. Keep heating that until the mixture firms up. And then I like to scrape that out onto a plate to let cool. Do that about an hour before you want to mix your dough or before the levain is ready. That way it gives it time for that warm Tangzhong mixture to cool off. So add all of the ingredients except for the seed soaker to your mixing bowl. Add the flour, add the wheat bran. We'll add all of the salt. We'll add in our ripe levain. We'll add in our honey. And then we'll add in our water. You might want to save some of the water, so I usually hold back about 5%. So that's about 45 grams of water with this recipe. And if the dough looks really, really wet and kind of sloppy and just too slack and weak, then you can leave out this little bit of water. Next, we'll add in the Tangzhong. Now that everything is added into the mixer, we're gonna mix it 1 to 2 minutes on low until everything is incorporated. And then we'll turn the mixer up to speed 2, and we'll mix for about 5 to 6 minutes until everything kind of comes together. Then I like to give the mixture a rest for about 5 minutes to let the gluten kind of relax a little bit. Then we'll mix for another period of time. And then finally, at the end, we'll add in our seed soaker. Scrape it out to your bulk fermentation container. You'll see that it's quite a bit shaggy in the container, and that's okay. We're gonna give this dough 2 sets of stretches and folds. So we'll space those out by 30 minutes. So set a timer now and mark this as the beginning of bulk fermentation. Okay, it's been 30 minutes in bulk fermentation, so now we'll uncover the dough, wet our hands, and give the dough its first set of stretches and folds. Pull it up over to the other side, repeat on the other side, and then rotate the bowl and repeat on the remaining two sides. And then cover the dough, set a timer, and repeat this again for the second set after 30 minutes. After you perform that second set after 30 minutes, just cover the dough and let it rest for the remaining time in bulk fermentation. It's been 3 hours into bulk fermentation and my dough has risen up quite nicely in the container. You can see here that the dough is really well risen. It jiggles in the container when I shake it, which is always a good sign of fermentation. And the dough is pretty smooth and it's actually quite airy, so it's definitely ready to be divided and pre-shaped. Have a bowl of water near your work surface. We'll use that to dip our hands into, and then you'll need your bowl scraper and your bench scraper. Because this is sandwich bread, I don't mind being a little bit more forceful with pre-shaping. Knocking out a little bit of those excess gases is actually okay because we don't want a super open crumb with a sandwich bread. Divide this dough directly in half and pre-shape each half into a pretty tight round. They should each be around 1,000 grams. And I hate to say it, but I nailed it on the first divide. There you go. It seems like I've been doing this a while. Use that water to wet your hands as necessary to ensure that the dough doesn't stick. Push the dough with the scraper as you use this hand to keep it off. We're going at a, fairly steep angle here to get some nice tension on that work surface. And you can see just with a few motions, it's already quite tight. We're gonna do just one more. Okay, two more, and there we go. Now that the rounds have been pre-shaped, let them rest uncovered for 30 minutes. If you haven't already, be sure you have your loaf pan nearby and the interior greased with a little bit of oil or butter. And then if you want to top your bread dough with something like these seeds, then have these nearby as well. This is fairly sticky dough, so make sure you have enough on your work surface and on your hands to prevent sticking. Use your bench scraper to pick up the dough. The first step is to just grab the sides, fold them over to the middle, pick up the dough, and be a little bit forceful here with this because we want an even cylinder. Okay, an evenly shaped cylinder. That way our bread dough rises evenly in the loaf pan. Now the toppings are stuck on. What we'll do is we'll take this and we'll flip it over and put it right into the pan. The dough is right in the pan. If you have any sides that have kind of snagged on the edges, you can just clean up the edges with a towel or your fingers. And if you really need to help that dough get in there, you can always use your bench scraper to kind of gently push the sides of the dough down. Avoid pushing too hard down into the dough because what will happen is the final loaf of bread will have a gummy area at the very bottom and then also on the sides. So you really just want to try to drop it in as best you can. All right, now that we've shaped our dough, we have it in the final baking pan, and we have our pans covered with this reusable plastic wrap to keep a dry skin from forming on the top. We'll let this dough proof for 2 hours. The dough has been proofing for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and it has risen a little bit over the rim of my pan. The dough is very soft to the touch when I give it a poke, and really it's ready to be baked. So I have my oven preheating at 425 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's been preheating for 30 minutes. There's no baking stone or baking steel inside. I'll bake these pans directly on the baking rack. And at the bottom of my oven, I have a pan that's preheating. When I put the dough into the oven, I'll throw a cup of ice into that pan to create a steamy environment for these loaves to rise. We'll bake this dough at 425 for 20 minutes with steam. And then after 20 minutes, we'll take the steaming pan out and lower the oven temp to 375 and continue to bake for another 25 to 30 minutes. You want the internal temp of this bread to be around 204, 205 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, that's all there is to this soft seeded sourdough sandwich bread. And I hope you give this one a try at home, because I think you're gonna really love the delicate flavor and the balance between the sweet honey, the nutritious and healthy seed and oat soaker, and a lot of whole grains in the bread as well. And because of that pre-cooked flour that we added in, it just lasts for a long time. So the bread stays soft for a long while, and kind of furthering the practicality of this bread, it freezes exceptionally well. So you can make a couple loaves every couple weeks. So I hope you give it a try. Happy baking.